I don't know about you, but I love finding out about free, easy things that we can do, nothing complicated. Usually the thing or the activity is right under our nose, which are literally, really money keepers. But we'll talk about this back in a minute. Good morning. Good morning. This is Jan from New York City. I love helping people to keep some more of their own hard earned money. Could that be you? How's everybody doing today? Thanks so much for being here. I really appreciate you. I love sitting around and figuring out ways that we could hang on to, a buck here, a buck there. It all adds up. It really, really does. Sometimes people don't feel the impact right away, but if you do things consistently in small increments or in any increments, but you do it consistently in a good, positive way, it all really adds up. I was thinking about something the other day. Actually, yesterday I did a show about how much I love to manufacture my own food, if you will. I'm the CEO of my own kitchen. Many of you listening are. And one of the greatest tools, of course, you need to have really seriously are food saving containers for the freezer, whatever. But it also occurred to me that there are a lot of containers that we have already paid for, that we have already purchased, that you can utilize. For example, one of the really nicest ones that you get that comes with it are those deli containers, like they'll slice ham or slice turkey or certain cheeses or whatever. It depends on the company. And they have a really good lid and they have a pink lid to it and a clear bottom. They're really, really good. So this is one quote freebie, although you bought it, you paid for it. And that's the idea. If you already paid for something and you get a repurpose out of it, I will consider the repurpose part the freebie. So in this case, like there are other containers too. For example, whipped butter containers, those whipped butter ones, like the plastic ones, those are really, really good. I've actually like saved some like soup in those. Like if I had leftover soup, that's a great portion size for that. And I don't fill it all the way to the top. I fill it maybe 3/4 of the way to, allow for a little bit of expansion and then pop it in the freezer. Look around you. There are a lot of products that you have already paid for that come in, that food was in already that you can use to put in your freezer. So right then and there, that is quote a freebie. And I love that idea. Now, also when you get to like go to the grocery store or you buy some produce, you buy produce, you pick out the produce and you put the produce in a bag, those plastic bags that you're allowed to take. Okay, so whatever you take that you utilize for your actual product, not the meat ones. I'm talking about fruit. So fruit's a little bit cleaner, a lot a bit cleaner in my opinion. But you hang on to those little plastic bags. They make great little like wet garbage bags, if you will, and put the little wet garbage, sloppy stuff in those and tie it up. And even if you want to freeze it and then throw it in your regular garbage before you dispose of it. So that's another freebie to take full advantage of. Or let's say that you go with a friend and they invite you to a coffee, to go out for a coffee. I know that we're all mindful of, hopefully economizing by not necessarily drinking, coffee outside. But let's say you get an invitation to go out and have a cup of coffee, and that's so sweet of your friend to do that. And you happen to like to use sugar packages. They come with the stuff that was paid for. This was already paid for and intended for. So it's like little things like that. Or if somebody treated you to fast food, those little ketchups, instead of just throwing them out, those little packages of ketchups, not necessarily to replace what you use, but they are really, really good fill-ins for when, let's say you're down to your last amount of ketchup, you thought you had more. You're like, no, you want ketchup on your burger or your French fries. At least aha, you could go into your little stash of little ketchups or little mustards or even they even have little mayo packages too as well. If this is something you already paid for, by all means, maximize it. And that also holds true for like paper napkins. These come in very, very handy, especially when you're in a car. It's always good to keep paper products in your car like that, for example. So if you get a bunch of what comes already with what you already paid for, Remember, you paid for this already. I'm not saying go around mooching off of paper napkins. No, if you had a meal of which you paid for and you rightfully could take a few napkins to that you utilized, there's nothing wrong with that at all whatsoever. So find these like little ways. I am curious to know if there are things that perhaps you do that like in little small increments, like put it into a little secret stash there. Like if you have like a plastic container or like a baggie and you can, store all those little things or those like coffee stirrers, for example, if you like to have those and you could reutilize, repurpose. There's nothing wrong with repurposing. In fact, repurposing is one of the easiest, best ways to really consider something as a freebie. And of course, let's go back to the method of, now this is a little different and slightly switching gears. Let's go back to the abundant time of the month for some people versus the, bare bones meal time of the month. And yes, there are people that go through that because this is real life and there are real people that go through situations like that. Like they're a few days away from payday. Okay. They live paycheck to paycheck. They're a few days away from payday. A little bit of planning goes far. You would be shocked and amazed. Let's go back to that, for example, container. Let's say you had that plastic container full of soup that you had utilized, repurposed, and saved and put in the freezer. It's like, oh, wonderful. You could take that plastic container down. You could just put a little bit of water and a pinch of salt or a little bouillon powder in there and then put that soup back in there for good flavor, stretch it a little, maybe add some more vegetables and maybe some leftover meat. You might have little bits of meat, add it to that, make a couple of pieces of toast, cut up a tomato or a canned vegetable on the side. You got yourself a whole meal. This is what I call like maximizing your value. And in a weird way, kind of like a freebie meal. All it takes is a little bit. See, this is the thing. It's what I'm not talking about like exorbitant planning either. I'm not talking about that. So as you go along through the course of your day today, it's really what it amounts to is just being a little bit mindful. So as you go along during the course of this day, let's say just this specific day, ask yourself, whatever you're doing, is there a way that I could do this thing for less money? Is there a way that I could double up on this and keep one for the future, which will eventually help you save some money? I call those freebies. That was like a freebie meal that I had just mentioned with the soup and with the container. It's actually a game. If you approach something and literally make a game out of it, that's all the fun too. Keep in mind that the attitude that you come along with all of these ideas definitely makes a difference. I approach it as a fun thing to do, and why not? So look around. What other freebies do you have under your nose that you can reuse and repurpose? There you go. I want to wish everybody an amazing, fantastic day, but also want to show you this clip. It's been a little while. Hang on. Have an amazing, fantastic day. Take good care of yourselves and your families. Bye bye.